Hey everybody, it's John from Seattle Coffee Gear. I'm here in a different part of the commercial kitchen, but we're in the commercial kitchen because we're doing a commercial crew review, and today we're talking about the GS3, and it's the MP version of this machine. You already saw Ali do a comparison video of this with the R91. That was more focused on the home side. Today we're going to talk about it from more of a commercial perspective. So this is a machine that has been out for a little while, but we thought it'd be good to do an updated review on it. We do get a lot of questions about pressure profiling and flow rate profiling and what the difference is and what machines do it. So this is one of the more popular machines for that. I just want to start out by talking a little bit about what this does and what those two terms mean. Because there's a lot of confusion out there about what pressure profiling is and flow rate profiling is. And this machine is kind of a combination of both, but definitely more on the flow rate rather than the pressure side. So a machine like the R91 has a variable speed pump, meaning that the pump can spin at different speeds. It can spin at a low speed and generate a low amount of pressure, or at a high speed and generate a high amount of pressure. This machine does not have a pump like that. The pump is just at one speed. A machine like the Slayer 1 group or the Slayer espresso, that machine has a similar pump to this where the pump only runs at one speed, but it's using a different method, the needle valve, to change the flow rate. So the pressure technically is consistent, it just takes longer to fill up the basket to get to 9 bars of pressure because it's at a lower flow rate. Flow and pressure are two different things. So what this machine does is it has a conical valve inside the group here that you're controlling with this paddle. And basically what you're doing is controlling how open or closed that valve is. And so when you turn the paddle, you'll notice that the pump is always running at that same level of intensity, but the flow rate changes just a little bit. You'll also notice some water kind of kicks out over here. That's because the paddle or the valve is basically splitting the flow rate. At least that's how I think about it. It makes it a little bit easier to understand how it's operating. So if you notice some water coming out right here, that's normal. That's not different. The one kind of quirk about this machine that you'll notice later on is that when you turn on the group, the pump will kick on, but the valve is still technically closed at this point until I get to that spot there where it opens just a little bit and then opens all the way so we get our full flow rate. So I'm going to shut that off. It also has this gauge right here. That is the pressure gauge for what's actually going on at the group here, which is kind of handy. You can get some repeatability with it, but the paddle is a little bit sticky, so it can be kind of hard to hit the same spot every single time. So this is definitely more of like a espresso as an art rather than espresso as a science. You can't program the same profile to run each and every time to have that be a non-variable. This is always going to be a variable, and you can pull some really great espresso on it, but it is going to be a little bit different each time unless you're super experienced, but I've not met someone that is. This is also different from some of the paddle versions of the Linea or the Linea Mini, the Linea Classic, or the Strata or the GB5. The only Strata MP, that's the only one that will be the same as this. The Strata EE that has the paddle is operating the same as the paddle on the Linea Mini, where it's just you turn it on, you turn it off, and it kind of acts as like a set ramp up time just because it's taking time to come up to pressure, but it's not changing the pump speed at all. So this is very confusing. Took me a long time to figure this out. If you have questions about it, leave us a comment down below and hopefully we can try and lend some clarity. But that starts off by explaining the difference between pressure profiling and flow rate profiling, and this machine is more of a flow rate profiling machine. If you look over at the buttons here, you'll notice that there is not the usual like cup, 2-cup button. That's because this machine is not a volumetric machine. It is only a semi-automatic, basically on-off, flow rate profiling machine. To get into the programming menu, you hold down the little continuous run button, and then that takes you here. That's where you can program the T setting, change through that. You can change your clock, you can change your boiler temps, put in a service phone number, and then you're back out to that main screen there. The service phone would be helpful if you're a cafe owner and you have this machine, a function that's in a lot of the La Marzocco machines, just because they are more commercially minded. And to that point, this is an NSF rated machine. So it's rated to the NSF standards that allow it to be used in a commercial environment. Your health department will approve this machine. The continuous run button doesn't do anything if you just press it, because it's activated by the paddle here. So keep that in mind. And then you have your hot water button, and there is a mix valve on that, so you can adjust the temperature of the hot water. And then the steam wand here is insulated, so it stays cool while you're touching it. This does have the regular activation here of the steam wand. Not my favorite steam wand activation, because if you're steaming right here and you're trying to reach around, I find it more difficult than having something up here or a knob right there. And it's hard to feather it because you have to kind of hold it in place if you want less pressure from it. So that's probably my biggest critique with this machine would be the steam wand activation, and then also the stickiness of the paddle. But this paddle doesn't fail, and it's just a very durable setup there. It is a dual boiler machine, so you have one boiler for steam, one boiler for brew, and then it uses the La Marzocco saturated group design, where this is actually connected to the boiler. So water of all the same temperature is kind of recirculating throughout this whole space, just to give it a little bit more stability. There is that. Why don't we reset here and we'll make some coffee on this. I'm going to do the same thing Allie did and make a 1-in-1, so 1 espresso and 1 milk-based beverage. So let's set up and we'll do that. Before we start in with making drinks, I did want to say that the drip tray is removable because it can be plumbed or not plumbed. It has these little locks right here, and this lifts and slides out, and that's where you access your water tray as well. This machine can be run plumbed in or on the reservoir there. So most people, if they're using this for like a pop-up, like a farmer's market or something like that, they're going to be using it on the reservoir. It's just easier to leave that filled and just run it off of that instead of having to run like a flow jet to a 5-gallon bucket and do all of that. And then you're not thinking about your drain overfills, or your drip tray overfills, all of that stuff. So some folks will run this off of a flow jet. We don't have it running on a flow jet right now. We just have it running off the reservoir. And if you are gonna plumb it in, if you're watching this for home, please test your water before you plumb it in and make sure you have the right filtration, the right water going into this machine. Another reason why it might just be easier to run it off the reservoir and just fill it with really high quality filtered water or bottled water already. So that's my 2 cents there on water filtration. Grab my portafilter out here. I'm gonna dry it out. I have one of the Strata triple baskets in that portafilter right now. And I'm gonna put about 19.5 grams in it. We're using a Ethiopian natural process coffee from Ladra Roasting here in Seattle. Well, shout out there. And then I'm betting a lot of you have questions about this grinder. And this is the Atom Pro from Eureka. There'll be an actual video on this coming out soon, but you're gonna ask about it, so I'm just mentioning it now. I always overdose a little bit on these grinders, even though they have low retention. Okay, 20 grams. And then this is my kind of dosing trick for single dosing where you have one basket and then flip over, kind of shake it around to level it out. Works fairly well. I'm still gonna redistribute there. Get that all nice and level. And then we have our Barista Hustle Tamper. Been really liking this. And there we go, all good to go here. Lock this in place. And Allie stole my drink in that last video, the 1-in-1. So I'm just gonna do that again here. I'm gonna purge this before. And I'm gonna wait for it to drop and then kick that pressure all the way on. Or I'll just do it now. And I don't have a rag, otherwise I would have wiped that steam wand. And then I'm gonna do kind of the ramp down thing here. Small ramp down. So that was about 20 grams in, about 50 grams out. So a ratio of about 1 to 2.5. Empty that in a second. That was a really awkward angle to pour that out for some reason. But there's my little kind of cortado thing and my espresso. Looks pretty good. Pretty excited for this. And my brew time was 37 seconds, so a longer shot. That tastes pretty good. Sometimes light roast single origin coffees can get a little interesting with milk just because they're a little bit more acidic. So sometimes the flavors don't quite play off each other like you want. But that came out really good. Really kind of smooth, sweet, very light. But let's see how this actual espresso tastes here. Yeah, the nose on it is really kind of like floral. Get some like citrus zest, like a lime zest. And a little bit of like that kind of chocolatey background to it, but let's taste it. That's good. Has like a super focused like key lime flavor right in the center of that. Yeah, but it doesn't get harsh or like nasty. It's not bitter. It's just really sweet, really tasty. I really enjoy that. And it's really cool to be able to play around with the different pressures and flow rates, because if you do a low flow rate, it takes a while to get up to pressure. And you can grind pretty fine and still get some good extraction out of the coffee. So this machine might be a good machine if you really want to experiment with coffee and you want to use it in a commercial space. If you want to take it to a mobile place like a farmer's market, or if you're catering at a wedding or in a trailer or a truck for events or something like that, it could be a good machine for that. Just be aware that you do have to be very involved with this paddle to get repeatable results. You might notice that I have actually a little tape mark here that I've been using to kind of figure out where I want that like pre-infusion to sit at for a little bit. That's where I like the flow rate, where it kind of takes its time to saturate the coffee and fill that basket up. So that's why I have this tape here. Just because I found that I wasn't able to hit it repeatedly without putting that there. But I really enjoy this machine. It's really nice to use with the insulated steam wand, the mix valve on the cold water spout. It is pretty expensive, but it's gonna last you a really long time as long as you put good water in it, you do your maintenance on it, and yeah, it would work in a cafe, in a home, in a mobile environment. And it also has 2 power modes before I forget that. So a half power mode and a full power mode. If you're running it at full power, it is a 20 amp machine. So if you have some things running on the same circuit, like I had this grinder running at the same time the machine was, and we blew the breaker, so we had to go reset it. So just be aware of that. If this is running at full power, you want it to have its own dedicated outlet. If you're running it at half power, your steam boiler recovery times can be a little bit slow. So I would recommend running it at full power if you're gonna use it in a commercial setting. But that's all I have on this machine. If you have questions or comments or think we didn't cover something, we'd love to know below. I know you'll always comment and let us know what you think, so we appreciate that. Like the video if you enjoyed it, and if you want to see more of our videos, subscribe to the channel, turn on notifications so you see when we release new stuff. If you've ever thought about opening up a coffee shop, there's a couple links in the video that you can click to contact us, and we'll contact you, or you can find our number on the website and call us there. Thank you guys so much for watching, and have a great day.